Hey, I'm Ilara Vance, and welcome to Now in My Story. Please make sure to like and subscribe, because you're not going to believe what I had to do. This wedding dress should have been for the happiest day of my life, but it was my prison, because to save my family from ruin, I had to marry the one man I truly hate. My life used to be perfect. We weren't the richest family in the city, but we were happy. My dad ran a successful architecture firm that his father had built, and my mom was a loving homemaker. Our home was filled with laughter, but there was always a shadow looming over us. And that shadow had a name: Thorn Industries. Kalen Thorn's father was my dad's biggest rival, a ruthless businessman who played dirty. Years ago, he almost drove my grandfather into bankruptcy. The Thorns were our sworn enemy, and Kalen was the heir to that legacy of hate. I'd see him at social events, cold and arrogant, always looking down on everyone. I hated him on principle. Then the impossible happened. A key investor pulled out, a big project collapsed, and overnight we were, literally facing total financial ruin. My parents tried to hide the pain, but I saw the stacks of bills, the foreclosure notice. We were about to lose everything. One night, my dad sat me down, his face pale and defeated. He said there was only one way out, a single path to salvation for our family, a business merger. But it wasn't just a merger of companies, it was a marriage. Mr. Thorne had made an offer. He would absorb all our debt and save our family, but only if I agreed to marry his son, Kalen Thorne. I felt the air leave my lungs. It was a sentence, not a proposal. There was no choice. It was a sacrifice I had to make. The day I met Kalen to finalize the deal was the worst day of my life. He stood in his father's office looking bored, like I was just another business transaction. He didn't even offer a hand, just a cold nod. His girlfriend, Serafina Croft, was there, draped all over him and smirking at me. "I heard about your family's little money problem," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "How tragic. I guess some people just aren't cut out for success." I wanted to scream, to run, but then I thought of my parents' desperate faces. The hate in my heart was a burning fire, but I had to swallow it. "I accept," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Kalen just gave a slight, cruel smile. "Good, the wedding is on Saturday." There was no talk of love, no pretense of a real relationship. It was a contract to save my family from the debt that was crushing them. That week was a blur of pain. The wedding felt like a funeral. I walked down the aisle in a dress that felt like a cage, my heart heavy with sacrifice. Kalen stood at the altar, looking like a handsome statue, his eyes giving nothing away. We said our vows, the words tasting like poison. Our new life together was an Arctic wasteland. We lived in his enormous, sterile mansion, but we were, literally ghosts haunting the same space. We slept in separate wings. We ate at opposite ends of a ridiculously long dining table, if we ate together at all. Most nights he worked late. I'd hear him on the phone, his voice sharp and unforgiving as he tore into some employee. He was exactly the monster I thought he was, the perfect son of his ruthless father. My hate for him grew with every passing silent day. I was trapped in this loveless marriage, my heart aching for the family I had saved but could barely see. I spent my days wandering the empty halls, feeling more alone than ever. Serafina made sure of that, showing up whenever Kalen was out. "Enjoying the big house?" she'd ask, running a manicured finger over the expensive furniture. "Don't get too comfortable. Once Kalen gets what he wants from this deal, you'll be back in the gutter where you belong." The pain was constant, a dull ache in my chest. Then one evening, I saw something that didn't fit. I was walking past the kitchen when I heard a crash. A young maid had dropped a tray of expensive glasses. She was trembling, terrified she'd be fired. I braced myself for Kalen's rage, But when he walked in, his voice was quiet. "Are you all right?" he asked her, his eyes surprisingly soft. The maid just nodded, tears welling up. Kalen didn't yell. He just told another staff member to clean it up and quietly told the girl to take the rest of the night off. He even made sure she would still be paid. I stood hidden in the doorway, completely stunned. Who was this person? A few nights later, I couldn't sleep and found myself drawn to a distant sound of music. It led me to a wing of the mansion I'd never been in before. The door was slightly ajar, and I peeked inside. There was Kalen, sitting at a grand piano, his fingers moving gracefully over the keys. He was playing a beautiful, sad melody, and the look on his face was one I'd never seen before. Vulnerable, filled with a deep, hidden sadness. He wasn't the cold monster. He was just lonely. I backed away before he could see me, my heart pounding with confusion. This secret side of him made everything, more complicated. The tension between us started to change. It was still there, but it was different. When Serafina came over again, dripping insults and threats, Kalen unexpectedly came home early. He heard her telling me I was worthless. He didn't raise his voice. He just stood in the doorway, his presence filling the room. "Serafina," he said, his tone like ice. "Leave, now." She was shocked. I roll. "But Kalen, darling, I was just..." He cut her off. "She is my wife. This is her home. You will show her respect or you will not be welcome here again." Serafina's face went pale, and she stormed out without another word. I just stood there, speechless. "Thank you," I managed to say. He just nodded, his eyes unreadable. "No one should speak to you that way." That night, for the first time, we talked. Really talked. He asked about my family, about my dreams of being an architect like my dad. He told me he hated the world of business, that all he ever wanted was to compose music. It was a fragile truce, a tiny island of understanding in a sea of hate, but it was a start. Just as things were beginning to thaw, disaster struck again. A notorious corporate shark, a man named Silas Blackwood, who was a rival to both our families, made a hostile takeover bid for Thorn Industries, and his first move was to buy up my father's newly stabilized firm, threatening to gut it and ruin my family all over again. My sacrifice, our marriage, it was all about to become meaningless. Kalen called me into his study. His face was grim. "He's trying to destroy us both. The only way to fight him is together." He showed me the contracts, the financial reports, and tucked away in a dusty old file box, I found it, the original agreement for our marriage, and beneath it, a letter from Kalen's father to him. The letter revealed the full truth. What? Kalen hadn't agreed to the marriage to mock me or to gain power. His father had given him an ultimatum: marry me to create an alliance strong enough to fend off Silas, or he would be disowned and cut off from the one thing he cared about, his mother's trust fund, which supported the music conservatory she had founded before she passed. This marriage was his sacrifice too. He was trying to protect his mother's legacy just as I was trying to save my family. Suddenly, everything made sense. The coldness, the distance, it was his armor. He hated this forced marriage as much as I did. He wasn't my enemy. He was my fellow prisoner. All the hate I felt for him vanished, replaced with a wave of empathy and a deep, aching respect. I looked at him across the desk, seeing him clearly for the first time. "You did this to protect your mother's memory," I whispered. He looked up, surprised that I knew. He just nodded, his jaw tight. "And you did this for your parents." In that moment, we weren't rivals. We were allies. We spent the next 48 hours working side by side, digging through old contracts, searching for a weakness in Silas's plan. We shared coffee, ordered pizza to the boardroom, and for the first time, we laughed together. The chemistry was real, electric.
We found a loophole, a forgotten clause in an old deal between our grandfathers. It was enough. We exposed Silas's illegal tactics, and his empire came crashing down. We had done it. We had saved both our families. In the quiet aftermath, standing in the empty boardroom, Kalen turned to me. "Alara," he said softly, "I know this whole thing started as a nightmare. The pain I caused you, I never wanted that. But somewhere along the way, this loveless marriage started to feel like something else." He took my hand. "I think I'm falling in love with you." A year later, my family's company was thriving again, this time as a proud partner of Thorn Industries. The hate was a distant memory. Kalen and I were building a new life, one based not on debt or sacrifice, but on genuine love and respect. One afternoon, I came home to find a single, beautiful white dress laid out on the bed. It wasn't a wedding dress, but it was just as special. Kalen came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I was thinking that we never got a real wedding, just a business deal. How about we renew our vows? This time, for real, with no choice but our own. I turned in his arms, my heart so full I thought it might burst. The marriage that began with hate was the salvation for my family. But the truth is, it was my salvation too. It led me to him. I smiled, tears of joy in my eyes. "Yes," I whispered, "I love that." And as he leaned in to kiss me, I knew I was finally, truly happy. And that's my story animated. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, be sure to check out the next story on your screen. I think you'll like it too.